The Lower West Side Chicago neighborhood Pilsen has a history of being a place where immigrant communities made their home. In the 1840s, immigrants from places such as Germany and Poland came to the United States in search of political and religious freedom. Decades later, the arrival of European immigrants began to slow down, and assimilation into American life was more present, leading to these communities moving to new areas such as the suburbs. In the 1960s, Pilsen then became home to the Latinx community after being displaced due to the construction of the Stevenson Expressway in the mid-1950s and largely due to the building of University of Chicago. Nearly 5,000 people were displaced, leading to them moving to a community that was affordable and nearby, Pilsen. Soon after, the neighborhood would become comprised of Mexican residents. From the neighborhood name to the street art throughout the area, there is culture and history shown from the different immigrant communities that have lived in Pilsen. With gentrification, the culture that makes Pilsen what it is getting erased. Gentrification is leading to the displacement of residents who have spent their lives in Pilsen as it becomes less affordable for many. For my project, I wanted not to solely look at gentrification, but the long-term Latinx Pilsen residents. With my project, I reached out to current and former Pilsen residents and asked them a series of questions regarding their experience in Pilsen and the significance of the neighborhood to them. A few questions were, how long have you lived in Pilsen? Or if you're currently not living in Pilsen, how long did you live there? What changes have you noticed? What does Pilsen mean to you? Can you finish a statement? Pilsen is. And what area or place do you most identify with or is most significant to you in Pilsen? I have included some of the stories I have heard, and these are a few.
Pilsen is where I grew up. My most memorable place there is the work park where I played sports, softball, and basketball. Family members, friends, and I went swimming a lot. Every summer we went practically every day, 2 times a day, 3 times a day if possible. I think coming and going into Pilsen, I'll always go back to the Mexican restaurants. It's where you meet friends, people you went to school with, and I'll continue to go. It'll always be home to me.
Pilsen is home. There was so many local businesses and many people who were just obligated to say hi. Everybody knew each other. We have condos and apartments being made. Now, while I love that Pilsen is starting to become a better community in general, I hate the fact that our people are being pushed out of it. It made me who I am, and it built a lot of character for me. And I also got to meet lifelong friends, and that's where most of my family stays. It's a safe place and a place where I feel like I can be myself. It's a reminder of what I've been through and how I got to where I am today.
Pilsen is home. Pilsen is trying to hold on what was left from the Latino community. Some of the mom and pop stores that made Pilsen are in the past. I do like that Pilsen is recognized by its tradition, but at what cost? Pilsen is still my childhood home that will always be embedded in me. This is where I learned about the hardships of life that many neighbors, including my family, lived through. But at the same time, these same neighbors showed unity, love, and respect towards each other. The smallest details was what made Pilsen home.
Pilsen to me is home. You see a lot of people come, you see a lot of people go, you see a lot of changes. Stores closing, opening, it's give or take. Yes, there's a lot of bad that happens, but you can't let that install fear to create a life of you just not living. You have to continue to go about your business and have a life that you choose. Enjoy Pilsen to its fullest because it has a lot to offer.
Pilsen is Pilsen is the place where I had my first kiss, my first date, my first heartbreak, my first job. I met my best friend in Pilsen. I had my first apartment, my wedding, and now, unfortunately, my divorce here. This place has healed every devastation I've ever experienced. My whole life is here.
Despite the many changes that the Pilsen neighborhood has gone through and continues to face, the personal connection that these residents have with the neighborhood remain. Racial minority communities develop social fabrics to a community, which helps the connection between themselves and their community. When looking at class and race, these two elements contribute to the type of roles that a neighborhood holds. When looking at Pilsen, Pilsen was a neighborhood that Latinx people moved to because it was affordable and was a space full of people who shared similar backgrounds and experiences as them. With gentrification, the property value is rising, whereas the median household income is decreasing for Latinx people. The Latinx residents are continuing to be pushed out of their own homes and community because it is becoming too expensive for them. How are the Latinx residents supposed to stay in a community that they made their home while their rent or mortgage is rising quickly? The number of Latinx people living in Pilsen has decreased dramatically within the decade, and as it becomes less affordable, the Latinx community will no longer make up the majority of Pilsen. The population of Latinxes in Pilsen went down by 26% between 2000 and 2010. And because of the continuous property value increase, this percentage will continue to grow as Latinxes are becoming unable to afford their homes. Displacement can seriously disrupt and destroy the community's systems of support, exchange, and reciprocity or social fabrics. Experiencing the change and loss of family and friends because of gentrification takes a toll on these community members. Concluding my project, I wanted to end with the story of a Pilsen resident who shared her story with me regarding gentrification's effects on her community and her family, as well as her favorite memories at La Huerta Roots and Rays.
Pilsen is not for sale. Those words, they echo in my mind's memory, because I see now that Pilsen was sold so long ago. Pilsen was first sold when our friends and neighbors, members from our homeschooling group, our families, began to break away. They could not afford to stay. They could not afford to stay and benefit from all the neighborhood's improvements. Pilsen was sold when the businesses around me that were essential to our day-to-day survival and well-being closed down or renovated. And in their place, we have now these high-end galleries and these wonderful, lively eateries and bars, the upscale secondhand boutiques, health food stores, and specialty coffee shops. Let's not forget the big music venue down the street. Where are the community spaces we once inhabited and met to create our spaces? Where I grew friendships, where I grew my family. Pilsen was sold long ago when everyone I knew started to leave until they were all gone. And now here I am, planning my family's next move. Because we'll soon be gone too. There was this garden. Actually, that garden still exists today. It goes by the name of La Huerta Roots and Rays. I remember that's where I met most of the people that we grew with, that evolved into our family and our community. Our roots were in that garden. And it started so haphazard and just we put it together with buckets and old pieces of wood, and gave it new life and never turned anyone away. And it grew so wild and so tall. And in the summers there we would meet, and I remember the sunshine, so beautiful and bright, and everything would be so full and lush. And my children, along with the other children, used to run and play and hide. And their beautiful little faces would peek out from the sunflowers and the bean teepees, smiling and laughing.